This is the Sports Investor Podcast with Professor MJ. Today we'll be talking about my NFL picks for the final regular season week. Welcome to the show and happy holidays!
Welcome to the Sports Investor Podcast, where it's all about smart sports betting. Here is your host, Professor MJ.
Hi everyone, I hope you had a great Christmas and that you had fun with your relatives. It is freezing here in Quebec City these days, as the current temperature feels like minus 34 degrees Celsius or minus 29 degrees Fahrenheit, according to the Weather Network. So if you are living in a warm region, please send us some of your heat. Okay, let's move on to the serious stuff, since we have what should be a very exciting week number 17 in the NFL, with many playoff implications. Last week, our picks went 2-1-1. The Titans covered the +7 spread against the Rams, and the Chiefs won by more than 10 points against the Dolphins. But the Bills failed to cover the +12.5 point spread in New England. We got very lucky with the Eagles pick, as they scored a meaningless defensive touchdown on the last play of the game to push the -9 spread against the Raiders. One of my followers from Texas is involved in a prediction contest where the winner at the end of the season gets $1.3 million, and that late TD by the Eagles allowed him to win his pick on Philly at -8.5 points. He went 5-0 last week and currently sits in 20th place, which would be good for $26,000. He says he was yelling and running through the house when Derek Barnett scooped up the ball and ran it in the end zone. I wish him the best of luck for the final week. Our updated record is now 33-21-3, which corresponds to a 61.1% success rate. My goal of finishing above 60% is certainly achievable. Let's hope we don't crash down this week. I've got 4 picks and 2 leans for you. This episode is dedicated to the people living in the state of Oregon. I have an uncle who lives in Eugene, and I had the chance to go there once, and I found it very beautiful. So a special hello to folks from Oregon. Let's now discuss my picks. By the way, I made my picks Thursday and posted them on many websites and in my Facebook group, but I did not have time to record this podcast episode earlier, so some lines have moved since then, and I apologize if they are now different at the time you are listening to this. Pick number 1, Packers +7 points at the Lions. I tend to fade teams who are coming off a loss that just eliminated them, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. The Lions are out of the playoff picture following a very disappointing loss in Cincinnati. Their spirits are probably low, while the Packers have had time to digest the fact that they, too, are eliminated. Green Bay is getting an extra day of rest and preparation, since they lost 16-0 against the Vikings last Saturday. Speaking of that loss, quarterback Brett Hundley will do his best to leave a good impression if he wants to get a chance to become an NFL starter someday. I thought he had shown some good signs of improvement after throwing 6 touchdown passes versus only 1 interception, over a 3-game period, but he struggled big time last week against Minnesota. Granted, he was facing one of the toughest defenses in the league, which won't be the case this week. The Lions have allowed the 8th highest number of points this season. Back on week number 9, the Lions dissected the Packers with 417 total yards of offense versus 311 for Green Bay. They dominated the game from start to finish. Mike McCarthy and his team certainly remember that game, and they will do everything they can to leave the Lions fans with a sour taste in their mouth. Pick number 2. Broncos minus 3 points against the Chiefs. The only thing I don't like about this pick is the fact that the Broncos are coming off 2 consecutive road games, while the Chiefs played at home 3 matches in a row. However, Kansas City is likely to rest many key players, since they are locked into the number 4 seed. Head coach Andy Reid has already announced that rookie Patrick Mahomes will be the starting QB, and I expect many other key players to be on the bench. That's the strategy that Andy Reid adopted in 2013, when he was in the same situation where his team was playing a meaningless game. Paxton Lynch will start at quarterback for the Broncos. He appeared in 1 game this year and 3 games in 2016. To me, the big difference is Lynch will benefit from a better surrounding cast, since the Broncos won't be resting players. The line might grow even bigger if Andy Reid clearly states his intention of resting good players, so I suggest grabbing the minus 3 point spread as soon as possible. And it looks like I was right because the line has now moved to minus 4 since I first wrote about these picks last Thursday. Pick number 3. Colts minus 4 points against the Texans. The Colts played last Saturday, while the Texans were on the field for one of the Monday night games, so Indy is benefiting from 2 more days of preparation. With both teams clearly out of playoff contention, I also feel like Houston is the team who is more likely to pack it in early. They are coming off 2 bad outings. After losing 45-7 in Jacksonville, they dropped a 34-6 decision against Pittsburgh last week. Also, I trust quarterback Jacoby Brissett a lot more than TJ Yates. Brissett has completed close to 59% of his passes, compared to an awful 45% for Yates. Brissett has thrown 12 TD passes versus 7 picks, while Yates has 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Indianapolis signal caller is also a running threat. He has run for 4 touchdowns this year and has close to 4 rushing attempts per game on average. Houston is on a 5-game losing skid, and Indy has dropped its past 6 matches. It's easier to play softer when playing the final game of the season on the road, as opposed to the Colts, who will want to leave a good impression to their faithful fans. It's time for a quick break to talk about my sponsor of the day, the sportsbook called mybookie.ag. Bowl season is here, and it's time to get in on the action with MyBookie. Are you sick and tired of getting the runaround when you ask for a payout? Sign up at mybookie.ag today and get paid fast when you win. MyBookie is your hookup for all your betting needs, and you can even deposit using Bitcoin. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And if you want to make money betting the bowl games, you gotta go to mybookie.ag. I personally recommend them. I trust them, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check them out for yourself. They have odds on every matchup, as well as in-game live betting on all this season's NFL and college bowl games. Join now and MyBookie will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. If you're gonna bet, a good place to do it is at mybookie.ag. Pick number 4. Cardinals plus 10 points at the Seahawks. These two teams hate each other, as shown by an extremely physical meeting back in week number 10. So even though the Cards have nothing to play for, don't expect them to hand the game to the Seahawks easily. They will fight hard to play spoilers. Their defense has done a tremendous job recently. They have allowed just 27 points over their past 3 contests, which equals to just 9 points per game. Arizona is 3-2 over their past 5 games, including wins over Jacksonville and Tennessee. I'm curious to see how the Seahawks respond in their first game at CenturyLink Field after one of their worst home losses in a very long time. Remember that the Rams demolished the Seahawks by a 42-7 score a couple of weeks ago. Will Seattle be on fire, or will they play nervously, especially considering the high stakes at play? In order to qualify for the postseason, Seattle needs to take care of business against the Cards and must hope for a Falcons loss against Carolina. Okay, now here are a couple of leans, which means unofficial picks. Lean number 1, Jaguars plus 3.5 points at the Titans. I've got some very interesting numbers for you about the Jaguars. Did you take a look at how Jacksonville responded following a loss this season? Here's the answer. They are 4-0, outscoring their opponents by a combined 131-26 score. Wow, that's what I call rebounding nicely, winning by an average of 26 points. More specifically, they handled the Ravens 44-7, they beat the Steelers 30-9 in Pittsburgh, they shut out the Colts 27-0 in Indy, and they dismantled those same Colts 30-10. In other words, this Jaguars team comes out firing after a loss. Despite being locked into the number 3 seed, head coach Doug Marrone said he won't rest any players and that they are all in on beating the Titans. That's good news for the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chargers, who are fighting for a playoff spot. Tennessee has been struggling of late, dropping their past 3 games. One thing goes in their favor, though. Jacksonville had to travel all the way to San Francisco last week, so fatigue could play a bit of a role. However, Jacksonville will be looking to avenge a bad 37-16 home loss back on week number 2. The Jags would be happy to knock out of the playoffs their division rivals.
Yes! Yes!
Lean number 2, Chargers minus 8 points against the Raiders. Once again, I'm counting on the Raiders to give up following 2 heartbreaking losses in a row. Remember that they lost a crazy Sunday night game against the Cowboys by a 20-17 score when Derek Carr fumbled close to Dallas' end zone with about 30 seconds left. Last week, they put out a great effort in Philadelphia, but came up short once again. Meanwhile, the Chargers will be firing on all cylinders as they need a win, plus a Tennessee loss, and either a Buffalo loss or a Baltimore win to clinch a playoff spot. I don't like the way they have played their past two matches, though. They lost 30-13 in Kansas City and barely beat the Jets 14-7 last week, despite finishing +3 in terms of turnovers and facing a bad quarterback in Bryce Petty. They will need to step up their game against Oakland this week, and I believe they will, but I'm not confident enough to place a bet on them. Notice that the Raiders are losing one day of preparation after playing on Monday night. They will also be playing a third road game in 4 matches, including a long travel to Philly last week. Granted, the Chargers also traveled on the East Coast on Week 16 after facing the Jets. That concludes this episode of the Sports Investor Podcast, and hopefully we'll finish on a high note with our predictions. I'll be back next week for picks for the Wild Card weekend. As you already know, I usually don't make picks on every single game because not all of them provide a value bet. For example, there were a few weeks where I came up with only 2 picks and I decided to stay away from the other ones. During the playoffs, I'll make an exception. I will be discussing every game and making a pick for each one, but I'll do it for entertainment purposes only. These picks won't count towards my official record. However, I will let you know my level of confidence in each pick. There will be games where I would usually stay away, but I will still try to make a good pick just for fun. Alright, so thanks a lot for being here. I hope you were able to profit from my picks this season. I wish you good luck for week number 17, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again for the playoffs next week. Since this is my last podcast session in 2017, I want to wish you a happy new year in advance. May 2018 bring you good health, happiness, and profitable sports investments. Cheers, everyone!